One of the most important things in CELPIP is to score a 9 or more, okay? Vocabulary is the main reason why people don't get that to happen. There are lots of parts of vocabulary. We're going to cover everything here. So in this lesson, after this lesson, you're going to be an expert in vocab. You wouldn't have any issues with getting a 9 or more. If you follow everything that I'm going to teach you. In a few hours of me teaching you this, you will not improve. I am going to teach you the techniques that you can use. You would need a few more hours for that. And with those, you will actually improve a lot, not only for self but for life. But this is very important to understand because I had, for example, it's not the first time. We teach hundreds of students for CELPIP every month. And I got this request yesterday from a native speaker. You know what he said? He said, I scored 8 and 8 in listening and reading, and I got 4 in writing, and I think in speaking he got 4 or 6 in speaking. Is that unusual? Not really. It's a little bit unusual because he's a native speaker, but this is what happens because this is the most misunderstood concept in CELPIP. People think you can go in there and write just good English without mistakes and score a 12. It doesn't work like that. CELPIP requires you to have a very difficult vocabulary usage, words and phrases that you don't even use in real life, but they want you to use them, okay? You want to use something very advanced, something PhD level, academic level, and only then you get good marks. So imagine you writing or speaking with a level of daily conversation without mistakes, okay? You're still not going to score more than 8. Best case scenario, you're going to score 8. But for a 9 or more, you need to have very complex, low frequency words that we're going to discuss here. Now, before I get into the lesson right here, the resources that we have provided you in this course are a lot, and they are very, very useful. So first of all, you will see there's 2 attachments. One attachment has 200 words, vocabulary words that you can memorize, and the other attachment has 200 phrasal verbs that you can memorize. Phrasal verbs are things like give out, talk to, meet, run into, come across, and so on. This list that we have compiled is based on CELPIP type questions only. All right, it's compiled by HZad Education. It's not compiled by anyone else. We haven't taken words from the dictionary. These are words that you can actually use for the kinds of questions you get in CELPIP. So it's very targeted to this exam. But also you can use that in real life. It's like very advanced daily conversation level that you can have after this, after learning these words and phrases. Now, you can look at the list, and this is important, so please listen. People say that I've learned a bunch of words. I learned 100 words last week, but I cannot use a single one in writing and speaking. This happens very commonly, and the reason is you should just not look at the word and look at the definition. You should memorize that and make examples. What I mean by that is you have a word, now learn it, make 3 sentences with that word. Next word, 3 sentences. Either write those sentences or say them out loud. What you're doing here, and we use this technique with pronunciation training, accent training, which is very hard, right? We teach people how to sound like a native speaker in some of our courses. We use this for their memory, and we can use this for CELPIP, for anything related to grammar or learning, memorization, basically. The technique here is when you learn a word or phrase, you make 3 sentences from it, your brain is able to familiarize the usage of that new word or phrase with your personal life. For example, I'm a cook, okay? I'm a cook, let's say, and I learned the word absurd. Absurd means fast. So the technique here is I'm going to make 3 sentences based on my life. Absurd. Absurd means, my bad. Absurd means something weird, nonsensical. I was thinking about abrupt. Okay, so absurd is something weird or nonsensical. Now, I'm a cook. I'm going to say deep frying pizza is absurd. Okay, number 2. Not cleaning during the closing shift is absurd. Number 3, not providing safety gloves to your cooks in a restaurant is unsafe and absurd. All right, so now my mind has made this word familiar to my situation, and now I will 100% be able to use it in my next writing and speaking because my mind remembers it. Okay, so every word that you learn, make 3 to 4 sentences from it. from that list of 200 words for vocabulary and 200 words for phrasal verbs. So it's 400 things that you have to learn. I'm not saying if you learn like 100 out of 400, you're gonna fail. You can, even if you use 50 of them, you're good. But the more you learn, the better, not only for CELPIP, but also for your real life. It also depends how close your exam is. So if your exam is next week, try your best. But it will take you 2 months to, 1 to 2 months to memorize those 400 things. The more you can do, the better, okay? I always recommend people to learn 15 to 20 words or 15 to 20 phrases per day. That's usually enough for the brain's capacity. So do that. Hopefully, if you have time, take your time and then go and give the exam. It's another thing I'll tell you guys. If you have the option, like if your immigration status or study status is not on the line, you can give this some time. Please give this some time. The more you can postpone your exam and work on your skills first, the better it is. I always tell people, you can book 3 to 4 exams and fail every time, and you have wasted more than $1,500. You have wasted your time, you have wasted your motivation. Instead of that, take your time, prepare well, delay the exam, and then just go one time, do the freaking exam, and be done with it, right? That's what we all want. So prepare better. The next thing I'm going to say is we have another offer for you. If you haven't seen the introduction video, see that before this lesson. There's an intro video for a few minutes, and then there's lesson 1. So in the intro video, I've mentioned how you have the opportunity to avail our $39 offer. What you get here are 5 more mock tests. Within this course, you get 5 mock tests already. The $39 offer gives you 5 more very difficult mock tests, which you should practice before your exam. You will also get a book, which is the best book on the internet. Our clients love it. It is absolutely full of detail. You see there examples of writing, which you can also use for speaking, by the way. You see a basic example and then an advanced example. You see the sentences picked from those examples. We compare the basic sentences with advanced sentences, which will help you with the vocab as well, because that's where we compare how a person can score level 6, how a person can score a level 9. And then we have tables where we compare each thing separately. So within this $39 offer, you get this PDF as well, the 5 mock tests, and you get a free session with us. You get a free trial session where we assess you, we tell you what your level is. So we're here to help because we provide online classes as well, live classes one-on-one. This is a self-paced course. I'm going to provide you all the tools here that you need to be ready, basically. You will have everything you need, but still, if you're unsure, you can check our trial session and ask the teacher what you will be scoring, because you will not be getting writing or speaking feedback here, right? So you need a live tutor for that. Consider that offer, and that will help immensely with our lesson today for vocabulary and immensely for you to know your level. And if you want to book more sessions with that live tutor, you have that chance to do that as well. HZad Education is the one-stop shop for all your CELPIP needs, materials, classes, feedback, everything you need. Okay, but let's get back into the holy grail of all learning, which is this course and our first lesson today for vocabulary. All right, so I mentioned some quick tips to you guys, right? Now let's look at some real examples. This is what happens when people go in the exam. They write words which are of daily use, right? You're going to say good, bad, sad, happy, big, and small. This level, there's no mistake, no spelling mistake or anything. But this level will give you 5 to 6 points out of 12. Why, Sean? There's nothing wrong. This is like perfect, no spelling mistake or anything. That's a problem. It is too simple. It is too ordinary. CELPIP says we're an English exam. You need to do amazing English descriptions. Show us that you are beyond what a normal native speaker even would be. So here's some quick synonyms for you guys. Instead of good, try saying top notch. You know, the best, top notch. Even best is better than good. All right, but go with top notch. Go with magnificent. Magnificent would be used if it is like magnificent. For example, Mona Lisa is magnificent. That art? I don't think so, but you know, people say she is. So let's say the art, something which is a big deal. Let's say the Empire State Building is magnificent. So this is for things that are very high level. You wouldn't say your food is magnificent. Okay, so use it for the specific situations only. Terrific, very general situation. You can have a general use for it. Something is terrific or great instead of good. Next time you want to say bad, Try to say detrimental, which means harmful, very close to that. If it's disturbing or obnoxious, like it's annoying or irritating, you can use obnoxious. If it is appalling, it would be something which is just like disgusting, something terrible. I actually wrote terrible here before, and that's why I replaced it with appalling. Appalling and terrible are the same meanings, but appalling is a step up, a level up, more than terrible. Okay, so that's how I want you guys to start thinking from now on. If I can say good, what is better than good? Best, that's better. Great, yeah, kind of better. Awesome, good, but it is only for informal situations. So why don't I go with top notch? All right, so always step up your vocabulary. You cannot say sad anymore. You want to say gloomy, depressed, or morose. Morose is also similar to depressing. Happy? No, you are now glad. You are, or something is making you happy. So this is gonna gratify me. That's a verb. Or it is gratifying, like it's providing you happiness if it is gratifying. So instead of happy, you can directly replace that with gratify, but it's mostly a verb. You can use it as a verb as well. And you can also say satisfactory, which is a common one. Commonly, I would say commonly known, but not commonly used. Commonly used is happy. So if you use satisfactory, it's a low frequency word. It gives you more marks. Instead of big, you can say humongous, giant, or huge. Okay, more advanced words. Instead of small, you can say tiny. You can say trivial if it is not just a size, but it is something unimportant, like it's a small thing for me. So you can say it is a trivial thing for me, like unimportant. You can also say minor, all right? Minor would be, again, little, not important. It is a minor, it takes, or let's say it's a minor, it's going to have a minor effect on my business. It means it's going to have a small effect on my business. You can also use minor for people who are below the age of 18. All right, so is this enough? No. Again, this is an example for me to show you the most commonly used words versus what they should be sounding like and written like. So this is most common. I'm sure you're going to write something like that, so please don't and just do this. I'm sure I mean you will have those situations where you will use these expressions. So instead of that, just write better expressions, okay? These are the most common ones. Once again, check out the 400 words and phrases that we have provided you. And if you have, I wouldn't even say you need a big budget. It's just $39 more. I think you really should invest in it and get that PDF, which has all the breakdown between the different types of sentences, and it has samples as well. So that's what you need for your CELPIP practice at home. But how do you do it? Let me tell you a really good resource. And I'm not sponsored by thesaurus.com, but it is really the best resource out there. When you go to thesaurus.com, you can type any word like sad, and it's going to give you synonyms like gloomy, depressed, morose, and a lot more. So when you're doing your writing yourself and you are doing your speaking yourself, you can check your words, put them in thesaurus.com, and come up and observe the better words and learn them. Once again, how do you learn them? From now on, from the start of this course, make this a habit. Whenever you learn something new, that means you're going to make 3 to 4 sentences out of that newly learned thing, okay? I'm going to cover more of that later. I'm going to cover some parts of speaking recording, how you can do your recording at home. So this whole course will go through everything in detail. But to give you a quick overview of what I mean by speaking recording, at the end of the course, I'm going to tell you guys to record whatever you're practicing when you're speaking, because you don't have a teacher, right? This is a self-paced course. So when you record, you play to yourself and you listen to yourself, and you're the teacher of yourself. You all watch movies. You all hear, if you're in an English-speaking country, you hear native speakers, and you can tell how they sound. You can tell the expressions they make, and sometimes even the grammar. Sometimes you would speak and you don't know that grammar concept, but you hear yourself and you say, something is wrong. I don't hear people use grammar like this. So then you can go online and check it out. And again, there are ways to do it. I'm going to teach you that myself, how to self-assess. That's part of this course. If you don't go for our lessons, you can do this yourself as well, okay? It's not as effective, but it is going to be helpful. So when you record your speaking, play it. Every sentence, pause it. Every sentence, okay? You might think your sentence is advanced. I think that too sometimes, but I can pause it and think about it. Go to thesaurus.com. I plug in some of the words that I used, and I see that there are much better words and versions that I could have used, okay? And in writing, it's simple. Like in speaking, yeah, you're pausing the recording constantly and listening. But in writing, everything is in front of you. So you just copy a word that you have written, go to thesaurus.com, plug it in, check out the synonyms, memorize them, and keep going. Okay, so the more of this you do, the better. Every word, everything you do should be more advanced. The only exceptions are prepositions like the, is, that. Obviously, you don't have replacements for that. So don't worry about those, but yeah, try as much as you can. Okay, let's move on to our next part, which is complex sentences. Now, what is complex sentences? These are sentences that are broken into two parts. I should say here, or more. Okay. Two or more parts. Some sentences are long, like 3 to 4 parts. But in CELPIP, you don't need that because you don't have that much word limit. You don't have that much speaking time to have extremely long sentences. Two parts of sentences is enough. What do I mean by this? Let's have a look at an example, okay? So let's analyze this sentence. I'll call Sarah to fix the pipes at my place. She is an expert in that and she can help me. All right, cool. What about this sentence, guys? Since Sarah is an expert in fixing pipes, I will call her so she can fix the ones at my place. Which one, Mr. Examiner, if you're the examiner, which one is going to give you more marks? Obviously, this one. Why? Because it is more complex. It is more difficult to say this than this. And if you can do the difficult things, you're going to get more marks. That's the thing with CELPIP. You know, it's kind of a nut job, this exam, because you have to make everything more complicated and more complex, more difficult. And if you do, the examiner is happy. Okay, it is what it is, guys. So what I did though, what my strategy was, use since. When I use since, now I have the power to break down this sentence into two parts. It's like since something something, comma something something else. All right, like since I am hungry, comma, I'm gonna eat food right after this recording. It's actually true. Or since it is gonna get cold outside soon, comma, I'm gonna leave Canada for 3 months. That is also true. So what I'm doing is making the sentence, breaking that down the sentence into two parts. I can use the word since for that. All right, so since is a great example. What else? Let's have a look at some examples, guys. Let me put it in different lines so it's easy for you to know, for you to see. And again, you can pause this video so you can come back and check this out. All right, we have since, considering, and concerning. We'll go over some sentence examples, so don't worry, we'll go over them. Due to, because of. You have not only is a very good one. Given that, and you honestly don't need more than 3 to 4 in your whole writing exam, and maybe 5 to 6 for the whole speaking exam. But let's see if we can do more here. While, with regard, no, not with regards to, you can have although here, and given that, I have given that. Based on, there we go, yeah. Something was missing, so based on is the one. Okay, let's have a look. Can I put it all here? Yeah, I can. Nice. Let me just to make it look pretty and not confusing. Okay. Alrighty, so these are some examples of complex sentences. Every word that you have here, you should start your sentences with that. I'll go over some sentence examples. And then I'll tell you how and where to use them in writing and speaking, because you cannot make all sentences like this, all right? When I'm going to give you an example, I'm going to give you an example with since. I want you to pause the video then. Make 3 sentences, okay, with since by yourself. I'm going to give you an example of considering. Pause the video, make 3 sentences with considering, and so on. This is real learning, guys. This is what we teach in classes. I make students do this in classes. And the ones who really do it in classes and outside make sure that this goes in their head. You want to learn this forever, okay, for perfect memory. So since I've done a few examples, I'll do one more. Since like my car is broken down, comma, I need to call a technician. Okay, pause the video, make 3 sentences. Let's go to considering. Now, considering is used when you have a given situation, and because of that situation, something else is happening. So considering the crisis of food all over the world, comma, people are encouraged to give more charity. 2 parts. Okay. When you say concerning, it's the same thing, very similar to considering, but concerning is, the idea behind it is more touchy. You know, when you show concern for people, you care about them more, you have more emotion, you have more feelings. So you can have a serious situation here, for example, concerning the massive deaths from this ongoing infection, comma, we need to take measures to tackle this. All right, now this is deaths, it's more sensitive. Very similar to considering, you can use both of them interchangeably, but it's better if you have this with more serious, emotional, touchy subjects. Due to and because of are the same things, okay? If you have the option, use due to. Due to is a little bit more less used than because of, which means it's better, okay? Anything that people don't use often, you should use that. It sounds so silly, but this is what the exam requires. You need to do something advanced, okay? So use due to, it's the same thing, but I'm gonna make 1 sentence each anyway. Due to the water, all my sentences are negative. Let's do something positive, guys. Due to the increase in businesses, comma, the economy of this country is at an all-time high. You can also say because of in the same sentence. Let's make another one though. Because of the rising income levels, comma, people are putting more money towards the economy. 2 parts, okay? So again, all these sentences, all I'm doing is breaking them into 2 parts. Not only, I like not only, I really like not only. I would highly recommend you guys use not only in your exam at least once or twice, because this is used by advanced speakers, advanced writers, and it really breaks down the sentence in a very nice way. For example, let's say I'm criticizing the government, okay? So not only the government officials have the most holidays compared to other working professionals, comma, they're the only industry that uses people's money, that's taxes, people's money for their own personal pleasure. Okay, so not only, blah, 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 comma, something, something. Common mistake is people saying not only, but it depends on the type of sentence. Sometimes it's okay, but it's mostly a mistake when you say, not only am I super successful, but I'm also super humble, all right? Instead of that, I'm just gonna say, not only am I successful, comma, I'm also humble, all right? It's better just to say not only, comma, something else, not saying but in the middle, all right? Now, try as much of that as you can. Not only, yeah, that's good enough. Let's go to given that. Given that is very similar to considering and concerning. It's you have a situation, and because of that situation, there's a result. Given that there has been a rapid demand of this CELPIP program, comma, we've had to create a supercomputer to help all our customers out. Because of something, we did something. While compares to situations, it's really good when you have something happening simultaneously. So while I'm teaching you guys right here, comma, my wife is in the kitchen cooking. Okay, so it's 2 things happening at the same time, and you could use this, for example, in your speaking. Let's say a speaking question about let's just make this up. While you are going to work out, comma, you can also listen to motivational videos regarding weight loss. Okay, so this is part one where you suggest people about speaking. I'm really excited for the speaking part because speaking is where most people fail. Okay, so we'll get to that in a bit. So yeah, you can use while like that. Although is the best word to replace things like however or but or nonetheless. So let me do an example here actually. This is because many people use but, right? It's so common. So let's say you're writing a complaint letter in CellPip and you say that I was told briefly about the problems in the apartment, but I didn't know it was that bad. Okay, so instead of that but, let's say although I was informed about the problems in the apartment, I didn't know it was that bad. Okay, have a look, guys. First sentence has but here. The next sentence, it doesn't. It has although. Although I was informed about the problems in the apartment, I didn't know it was that bad. If you want to do a complete copy of that, I was briefly informed is what I mentioned. You can also say briefly told if you want an exact copy. Okay, so it's pretty much the same sentence that I had before, but instead of but, I put a comma here, and I put although at the start of the sentence. Okay, has the same meaning, but this one has a lot of marks because it's complex. Okay, so that's although. You will definitely come across a situation when you use but. If you do, just remember, change it to although. Okay. Okay, based on the last one, based on it's like again, it's mostly a given condition. It's based on the scenario that we have right now. Then you have another result out of that. So based on, unfortunately, these days you cannot criticize a lot of things on the media, right? Like people ban you so quick. So based on the current people running the media, comma, you cannot say everything you want. Okay, so based on something something, comma, something something else. All right, all these complex words can be used for speaking. No, I shouldn't say can be used. They should be used. They 100% should be used for speaking. You need complex sentences in speaking just as much as you do in writing because they have the vocab mark there too, and it's way more complex when it comes to speaking. You would have marks for emphasis and tone. So again, I'm just giving you that excitement before we get into that part because people think you can speak like a robot and get marks, but speaking is really demanding. We'll get into that module, and I'm excited to teach you guys that. But first, yeah, for writing, every time I've given you an example, I've said da da da, comma, da da da. So that's what you can do in writing. In speaking, do the same thing. Just don't say comma, please. And everything that I have mentioned here, you should have made 3 sentences per word. If you haven't, pause the video, go back and do that. Okay, otherwise you will not be able to use them. Okay, guys, so now I have covered complex sentences with you guys. Make sure to, okay, yeah, let's talk about how much of that you should use. Not every sentence should be complex, obviously. That's going to be an overkill, and the examiner will know that you have prepared, okay? You should have at least 2 complex sentences. Write this down, please. 2 complex sentences in task 1, writing. 2 complex sentences in task 2, writing. Okay? 2 are enough. 2 are enough. Sometimes even 1 is enough, but let's aim at 2. Every other sentence should be a simple sentence. A simple sentence is basically one that is not complex. That's not broken into 2 parts. Okay. Now, when you go to speaking, 6 sentences should be complex. 6 of them. Okay. Now, how your speaking works is 2 people mark your speaking. One marks the first 4 sections, and the other person marks the other 4. Each person should be getting a little bit of the complex sentences. If you target 8 complex sentences, because that is like 8 parts of speaking, so you might think, okay, 1 complex sentence per part, it will not work because some parts are very short, like the 1-minute parts, they're very fast. You cannot do a complex sentence. It's a long one. Sometimes you just can't. So just target 6. Which 6 questions you're gonna get those complex sentences into is completely your choice. Everybody has a different speed and control when it comes to those questions, which will get into later. But just have 6 complex sentences in the 8 speaking questions and you're going to be good. The more the better, but don't overdo it. Okay? And when I say 6, it means 1 per question. Out of the 8 questions, 2 questions you can leave. You don't have to do complex sentences there, but at least in 6 of them, you should have 1 complex sentence each. Okay? All right. Now, if you are confused about what I'm talking about, writing task 1, 2, speaking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you probably haven't looked at the online sample or the structure of this help-up exam, and you probably are doing this for the first time. If that is the case, don't worry, we'll go over all of that in detail. You probably will remember everything that I'm saying up to that point. But if you would like to come back to this video after practicing speaking and writing, you can come back. That's the beauty of this course. You can view these lessons as much as you want to. Okay, let's talk about commas. All right, commas have, I think, 8 major uses. Now, I'm not going to explain how to use commas. You can Google it. This course is not about grammar. We do have another course for English grammar, by the way. You can check that out on our website as well. But this course is about CELPIP, and I'm going to teach you commas that are useful for CELPIP. These are mostly the commas that will go as extra pieces of information or connectors. So let's look at them. Extra info is one example, and the other info is, the other part is connectors. So let's have an example of a sentence here. I, Bob Baker, hereby declare you president. Simple sentence. We have a comma here. We have a comma here. Bob Baker is an extra piece of information. I don't need to say that. I can remove him. Okay. I hereby declare you president. But I feel it's important to mention it. But I also feel it's important to let you, the reader, know that it is just extra. It doesn't have to be there. Okay. So I, Bob Baker, hereby declare you president. It's an extra piece of information. Another example of this could be a longer sentence would be due to the, you know what? Let's do this. Yeah, let's do due to. Due to is one of the complex sentences, right? Let me do that and put this comma structure here. It's going to become a super amazing complex sentence which the examiner will drool over. Okay, I promise you. So, due to the ongoing strikes, okay, let me make the easier one first. The ongoing strikes, we will have to shut down schools tomorrow. Due to the ongoing strikes, we will have to shut down schools tomorrow. Now you have a complex sentence here. Due to something something, comma, something something. All right, let's make it sweeter. Due to the ongoing strikes, after the president's resignation. Due to the ongoing strikes after the president's resignation, we will have to shut down schools tomorrow. This thing is extra. This is extra piece of information, just like Bob Baker was an extra piece of information. And you putting that extra info in between commas shows the examiner that you're able to handle multiple pieces of information and structure them beautifully without making an error, but using advanced punctuation marks to communicate your idea. That's important, super important. This is what academic writers do all the time, all right? So adding a little piece of information in the middle can be possible by this. What a basic person does, this sentence, what a basic student would do is they'll make 3 sentences with this. They'll say, there are strikes happening these days, full stop. This is because the president resigned, full stop. Third sentence, that is why we have to shut down schools tomorrow. Now this student gets a 6. Now you get a, this is 12. This is legitimately a 12-point sentence. Yeah, I don't even see any words that I could make fancier. So this would be a 12-point sentence easily. And that's what they like, guys. So have something complex like that. If you want another example, let's do one more so you have a good idea of how to use this. Gary Smith, professor at the University of Toronto, will join us later for his meeting. Okay, so this guy, professor at the University of Toronto, is not important information. I don't need to say that, but I would like to kind of include it, so I can include it in between commas. Okay, great. Let's talk about connectors. Now, there is, I'm going to give you, what I'm going to teach you here is the easy version, and then we're going to go to semicolons, and that's going to be the hard version. Which one gets more marks? Obviously, you should know by now, anything that is hard gives you more marks. No pain, no gain. All right, so let's talk about connectors. We're talking about however, and I think, did I talk about connectors here? I didn't. One second, guys. Semicolons, adverbs, adjectives. Oh, we don't have connectors. Okay, we definitely should have connectors here. Wow, okay. All right, well, we'll talk about connectors at the end of this. I'll give you a list of connectors which are important, but for example, right now you have things like however, moreover, and so on, right? Now, when you plug in these connectors in between sentences, you can use a comma before and after that connector. Okay, so an example here would be, I am okay with the winners in Canada. I'm really not. But however, this year, this is true. This year, I have had enough. This year, guys, was terrible for winter, so we're gonna get out of Canada for now. So I'm okay with the winners in Canada. However, this year I've had enough. It's more like an expression. I'm gonna put an exclamation mark. However, what people do usually is they don't even do a comma here or a comma there. They just do, like, this is what usually happens. This is incorrect, okay? Wrong punctuation. The correct punctuation is this. You put a comma here. The best way to do this is this. You put a comma before and after the connector when you have the connector in the middle of a sentence. Okay? So that gives you more marks for punctuation. That is the correct way to do it, and we should try to do as many connectors as possible. I'll talk about that later in this section. The more connectors you have, the more organized it will be. Another example, that if I'm not doing however, if I'm doing therefore, it would be something like this. Since the chickens, the chickens at the farm have stopped producing eggs. Therefore, we will have to buy new chickens. I wanted to say we'll slaughter all the chickens, but let's just keep it civil here. We will buy new chickens. The chickens at the farm have stopped producing eggs. Therefore, comma before, comma after, we will have to buy new chickens. And a final example I'm going to do is, what if your connecting word is not in the middle of a sentence? If it's at the start of a sentence, let's say you have, you're saying something. And then you put a full stop. You have your next part, which is a new sentence, and you start this with furthermore, comma, Now here, when you start a sentence with a connector, you want to put a comma right after that. Obviously, it's the start of a sentence, so the thing before that is going to be a period. So yeah, there's just comma after that. You can start a sentence with however. You can finish a paragraph with therefore, and then if it's a final sentence, then therefore, comma, hence, comma. Okay, all right, so this is how you use commas in complex ways. Commas are used in like at least 6 different ways, but these are the fancier ways where, again, I've included this in the vocab lesson because when the examiner is judging your range of vocab, punctuation marks are counted as well. That brings us to our next punctuation mark, semicolons. All right, semicolons are these things, guys. A lot of people don't even know this, right? Because we don't use it. Once again, now you'll understand. We don't use it often. That is why I'm teaching you this, because if you can use things that people don't use commonly, normally, you will be the unique candidate, and unique candidates using low frequency stuff get a lot more marks. That's why only not even 5% people score more than 10, okay? But with these strategies, you will be in that percentage. We'll make that percentage much bigger. By the way, colon is this, okay? This thing here. Semicolon is just that dot and comma, okay? That's a semicolon. Let me just write it here. There's a semicolon, okay? Now, how to use semicolons? There are 3 ways to use a semicolon, okay? The first one is with conclusions. Second one is with connectors. And The last one is with adding ideas. Okay. All right, guys. Conclusions are simple, right? Let's talk about this thing. I read the book about positivity, and I loved it. Hence, from now on, I will use those lessons in my life. I read the book about positivity and I loved it. This is the situation. Now I'm gonna do this conclusion. From now on, I will use those lessons in my life. So this is the conclusion of what I said earlier. That's why I'm gonna use a semicolon here to show that this is the result of what I said before. It's a conclusion of what I said before. What you probably have been doing is you put a full stop and you say, that's why. Or you don't even say that's why sometimes. You just say therefore, right? So now you can do this. You should do this. When you put a semicolon and conclude, you're automatically in the level of a 9, 10 plus. Okay? All right, let's talk about adding ideas or connectors. Let's talk about connectors first. You guys saw I was about to write hence there, but I removed it because I just remembered that I should teach you that in connectors. So in connectors, you could have said hence there. You would have done this, hence, comma. Okay. Sometimes though, you would see that you have lots of connectors within the same writing or in speaking. Then you don't want to use it again and again. You don't want to be repetitive. That's also important, guys. We will talk about that more once we get to writing and speaking. But don't be repetitive. Okay. Use different sentences, words. So let's say I'm doing so many connectors in a letter or essay. I'm not gonna use it here. The power of semicolon will automatically make this a conclusion because it's used in that way. But let's say I'm adding a new point, okay? For example, the prices of homes have been on a rise lately, semicolon. What's worse is that it's not really a connector. I would say, moreover, the inflation has even hit grocery stores. Okay, connector in the middle. Now, the sentence again is the prices of homes have been on a rise lately. Moreover, the inflation has even hit grocery stores. So it's even going in our food. Now, you'll say, wait a second, we thought it's going to be commas. You know, I said that with connectors, you can use commas. Like you can say however in between commas. You can say therefore in between commas. But at the same time, when I was explaining this, I was saying that is the second best thing you can do. The best thing you can do, guys, is this. When you have connectors, simply put a semicolon, the connector itself, and comma. And this is more advanced than this. Now, why did I teach you a basic strategy when I could have taught you an advanced strategy right away? It's again because you want to keep a variation, okay? You want to keep a range, guys. And that's why, I could have said, do this, vocab, all right? Just improve your vocab and ignore everything else. But if you want to do the best exam, you need to have a range of everything. Good words, complex sentences. You need to have commas, semicolons, so a mixture of that. You need to have all of this that we'll go over in a bit. And by having a mixture of all these things, you will show the examiner that you're versatile. You can use a range of expressions, sentences, punctuation marks, and that's how great your English is. That's also one of the reasons why I was saying earlier, I was saying somewhere, I don't remember, I was saying hence somewhere, and then I changed it because I said maybe I've used that before in the same writing. So make sure, guys, to keep things fresh. An example of this is, let's say you're using connectors like moreover and furthermore, then the next connector you should not use also. Maybe you can use something like this. Pick something from a complex sentence. Your next sentence could be a complex one. Let's say body 1 in a writing, you finished your paragraph with hence. Body 2, don't say hence, say therefore. Okay? So I'm teaching you all these things so you can use a combination of everything. The more combinations you have, the better it is. And you don't have to do all these things in one letter or speaking, but the more the better. Okay? Okay, so you can use connectors in the middle. And semicolon, connector, and comma. That's the rule of using a semicolon. It gives you the most amount of marks. Okay. Adding ideas. Let's say you have two ideas. So let's first look at how a basic person would write it. I have a fear of flying. Yeah, this is actually true, unfortunately, because I'm scared of airplanes. I have been, you know that? I have been since childhood. So I have a fear of flying because I'm scared of airplanes. I prefer driving to nearby cities instead. Okay, that's absolutely true. Now, in this case, you have two sentences. Of course, you can now, at this point, you will develop the understanding that I have. And that's what I want you guys, that's how I want you guys to think. I want you guys to think like me, because I've, of course, helped thousands of students score over a 10 for years, probably going over a decade now. So if you can think like me, you would think like the examiner. And now our thinking should say, there's a problem here. The two sentences are too simple. How can we make them complex, advanced, more connected, or longer? Well, it's a simple thing. Put a semicolon. Semicolon can be used when you're adding ideas. I have fear of language. Yeah, actually, all you can do, that's it. You know, quick, simple, easy fix. Instead of putting a full stop, you can put a semicolon. And in this case, it works. It's perfect. There are situations where you can't always do that. I'll show you. I'll show you at least one right now. But in this case, what you can see is both sentences are independent. Even if I put a full stop there, it's fine, right? Because both sentences can be independent. At the same time, these two sentences have the same. They're part of the same story. Okay, we're talking about my fear of flying and how I can drive to nearby cities instead. So it is still related to the same story, which is why semicolon works. An incorrect sentence would have been, with the semicolon usage, it would be, for example, I love cakes and sugary stuff. Okay, semicolon, I will fly to NYC tomorrow. Okay, now this doesn't make sense. They are two different things. They're independent sentences, yes, but they're not based on the same story. So this is incorrect. I can't use a semicolon there. I would have to use full stop or change the paragraph. Another incorrect sentence or usage of semicolon would be, for example, when they're not independent sentences. So there are some plants. There's some beautiful plants in our city which grow in summers. Okay, this is wrong because which grow in summers is not an independent sentence. It's not an independent clause. This needs the previous sentence to make sense. It does not have the previous sentence. It doesn't have it if it's separate, but if I do this, it's fine. Okay, but if I do this, then no, they're both dependent on each other, and that's why this is incorrect. Okay, the first example, both of them were independent and related to the same story, which is why you can use them. All right, so that's how you want to be careful with the semicolons. And you know, if you throughout all these things that I'm teaching you today and in the future lessons, you might be scared of some concepts. You'll say, oh, you know, this is hard, it's complicated, I'm not going to use it. Don't do that, please. Just memorize the ones that I'm saying are the best things to use, because they honestly are. If you want some more examples, go online and check some out. I'm giving you the incorrect ones on purpose so you don't have to struggle so much. You get an idea. As usual, please make 3 sentences with everything that I'm teaching you. Make 3 sentences here with this example. 3 sentences here, 3 sentences here, so on with the commas, okay? And again, you have the offer of taking a free trial session with us if you go with the further $39 offer, and we can help you further if you have any questions, okay? That is semicolons, my friends, and we have now covered commas and semicolons, which are punctuation marks that are important for you to get a good mark for vocabulary. Let's talk about adverbs, shall we? Adverbs are the things with lees. All right, lees are nicely, quickly, incorrectly. You know, there's so many lees that you can use. Now, when you say adverbs, you are talking about verbs that are being further defined. Okay, I talk. Talk is a verb, all right? I talk quickly. I talk slowly. This is how I talk. So my adverb defines my verb, defines my action, how I do it, okay? Diligently is a nice one. Diligently means I'm working hard, right? So I take care of my students diligently. Now, any lease that I can use in my writing is gonna make my writing, it's gonna give my writing a range of vocabulary. I was thinking earlier that I'm gonna make a range of vocab section here, okay? But basically, the range of vocab, it's all of this. Everything that I'm teaching you is the range of vocab. The mark you get for the range of vocab in writing and speaking is everything combined, okay? So in a sentence where it's dry and people don't usually use the lees, if you go in and use lees, you're gonna score more marks, okay? So I'll tell you after adjectives, I'll go over this too in a bit, and then I'll tell you what I mean, because I'll give you a basic sentence, and then I'll show you how the sentence looks better with the use of adjectives and adverbs. For now, let's go back to adverbs, and I'll just say use more lees because other people don't use lees often with their verbs, so you should. It's the most common parts of speech that is not used enough. So parts of speech are what? Nouns, adjectives, adverbs, and so on. Adverbs are not used by most people. So again, it's unique, it's low frequency, use them, and you'll be better than most. Next thing I'm going to say is adjectives, which are qualities. Adjectives like good. Again, we're going to use better words, right? But let's say, for example, purposes, good, great, bad, and excellent. Any quality that you can use to define people or describe people or things is an adjective. Remember that it is a quality. Okay, so let's have a look at a basic sentence, all right? And then we'll see how this makes a difference. A basic sentence, let me write this down. Basic sentence would be, let's say someone is writing a complaint about their office situation. So the employees at my office are rude and they are not able to talk with each other in a nice way. This is what I mostly see, sentences which are way too simple, all right? This is a simple sentence. Let's make it advanced, guys. So right here, we're gonna look at how to do that. Advanced sentence would have adjectives and adverbs. So the employees at my office are rude. Rude is an adjective, we have that here. And they're not able to talk with each other in a nice way. Instead of saying nice way, you want to say they're not able to talk to each other nicely. All right, that's one change I'm going to make. It's an adverb that I'm adding on the sentence. Okay, so we have the adverb here. What else can we put here? They're not able to talk with each other. Sorry, I gotta say nicely because I'm removing way. I can also say efficiently. I would honestly use efficiently because I want to make it more fancy. And can I define employees? Depending on the situation, but if I can define employees, if I can use an adjective to further give them a quality, older, younger, give it more description, then it makes it more expressive. It gives everything more emphasis. It becomes a longer sentence, and it now has a range. You got an adjective here, one adjective is here, and you have an adverb here too. There is not any other room for adverb here in this sentence, so we'll leave it at that. Even for office, if you can use an adjective, if you can say home office, in my nearby office, or in my local office, the more you can define it with adjectives, the more you can give it a title, describe how it is, describe the quality of the office, the better. Okay, so if I say the sentence this way, let me just put it close by. The older employees at my nearby office are rude and they're not able to talk with each other efficiently or nicely. It is way better than having a simple sentence like this without adverbs or adjectives, or at least with one adjective, but here you have more. So you have a longer description. Let me give you another example. This is going to be a little more intense. So a basic sentence would be like, I drive to my work. Uh, I drive to my job, and it takes me 15 minutes because I am fast. Okay? All right. Let's make an advanced sentence. All right. Sentence. All right, I'm going to copy this. I drive to my job. Now, instead of I drive, I quickly drive to my job because he's a fast driver, so he's fast. I quickly drive to my job, and it takes me 15 minutes because I am fast. That's good enough, I'm fast, but let's see if I can put an adjective with job. I quickly drive to my amazing job, and it takes me 15 minutes because I am fast. That's good enough. Now, that's enough in the sentence. You can't have more. You have quickly, it describes the verb, and you have amazing, it describes the job. This sentence has more expressions than this sentence, which makes it advanced. Once again, by the use of adjectives and adverbs in sentences, you can make them more advanced. Okay? So, not that difficult there. Simple lesson there. Adverbs and adjectives gives you a range. Idioms, no. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. With idioms, the main lesson I want to tell you is no, don't use idioms. It's raining cats and dogs and all those things. I don't even know a lot of idioms. Self-Help doesn't like them because it's memorized. They like real life situations, expressions, and things you come up with yourself. And I'm also going to say to that point, actually, real examples, and this means names of people, places. It's a caveat there, with places you can say countries. Like if you're writing or speaking, you can give examples of China, Japan, India, whatever you would like, but not something too specific. For example, company names, you can't use them. You can't give the example of Facebook. You can't talk about IBM or anything. Also, a past event, for example, in 1996, a survey found out, whatever. Why you can't say these things is because examiners say you are just copying something you read in a newspaper article or you heard in news. And that doesn't show your English. You're just copying something from someone else. So it shows their English. We want to see how you can think, how you can use your examples and come up with creative sentences instead of a news article that you just memorized. So idioms are the same things, right? They're memorized. Raining cats and dogs is something you can easily write instead of you coming up with adjectives it yourself. If you say adjectives or adverbs, raining intensely, or the terrible rain, or the downpour, instead of rain, that's an advanced vocab word, that shows the examiner that you're putting in effort, not something that is memorized. Okay, so specific examples and idioms, a big no. All right. Let's talk about connectors. Actually, we'll talk about this before I talk about the long sentence. That should be my last point. Connectors, guys, there's three types of connectors. One is the additions. The second one is the contradiction. And last one is the conclusion. Okay, so if you memorize three of them for writing, they're enough. Three, I mean, well, actually, three of each, I would say. Three of each for writing are enough, and 4 to 5 of each in speaking are enough. And we always give more for speaking because speaking is a longer exam, right? You have 8 parts there. Writing only, you have 2 parts. So additions are things like furthermore, where you're basically adding more points, okay? Furthermore, likewise, moreover, I always mention this in all my lectures because these are the 3 things. Again, I always go with 3. If you ask me 3 additions, 3 contradictions, and 3 conclusions, bang, bang, bang. I know them right away. So keep 3 in mind at least, but I'll give you more, okay? So you can pick and choose. You might like some other ones better. Also, other than that, apart from that, needless to say, and on top of that, what's more? I'll just give you one more, accordingly. Okay, so you can use these whenever you're adding new points within a sentence or when you're starting a new sentence. You can also use that when you're changing paragraphs. Okay, we will look at our templates in more detail after this lesson. I think after this lesson we'll talk about templates. When we talk about my templates for writing and speaking, they are going to be way more advanced than what you have seen elsewhere online, on my lectures on YouTube or anywhere else. Those templates will teach you how to start paragraphs as well. So don't worry too much right now about how to start paragraphs, but how to start sentences, yeah, you can use these connectors. If you're doing something casual or informal, you can also is used informally as well, but I used that already. You can say plus, you can say similarly. All right, those last two are a little bit informal. So you have informal letters in task 1, writing. You can use words like that if it's informal. You can also use these other words anyway. Maybe you talk with advanced words with your friends, so it's fine. But informal situations, these ones would be better. Okay. Contradiction is when you're saying but is too simple. So we're going to do however. We're going to say nonetheless and nevertheless. Also although. The only difference is with although, it's a complex sentence, and complex, it is used at the start of sentences. Nonetheless, nevertheless, however, are used in the middle of sentences. And you can say, I haven't used but here. I will not, because it's very simple. We don't want to use simple stuff. All right, conclusion. You want to use thereby, therefore, hence, overall, conclusively. And that's why is not a very advanced one, but it is informal. Okay, you can use that when you are doing informal letters or speaking. Now, thereby, that's why they're in the same level, because you can use them, or actually, I'll give you one more here. Thereby, that's why, and consequently. You can use them when you end a paragraph. So right at the end of a paragraph, you can use them. But the other ones here, you can to some extent use this too in different places. But when you say these two, especially overall or conclusively, don't use them at the end of a point. Use these two only at the end of an entire writing or at the end of an entire speaking task, because these two are major ones overall, conclusively. This is how you finish the entire topic. It's a big deal. So when you do this, when the whole conclusion is being wrapped up, you can use these ones, but not at the end of paragraphs, but at the end of the entire writing or the entire speaking. Okay? All right, guys, so those are some connectors that you should use whenever you get the chance, and that's going to improve your level of vocabulary. Finally, let's talk about long sentences. What are long sentences? Long sentences are everything above. So use a wise combination. All right, that's what I'm going to say here. Now, long sentences is something you will understand based on everything that we have been discussing. Words, yeah, all the words, you should make advanced copies of those. When you make sentences complex, though, you're going to have every sentence broken down into 2 parts. When you talk about using commas, you can see we're using commas for extra info or connectors. When you use semicolons, you can see we are breaking the sentence into multiple parts and using semicolons there. Adverbs and adjectives, you saw the basic sentences. Look at the basic sentence, look at the advanced one. Advanced is bigger. Look at the basic, look at the advanced. Advanced is bigger, okay? Finally, connectors also are going to make things longer, okay? You can add multiple points using connectors, and that is why every long sentence that you do is going to give you more marks than a short sentence. I used examples where I said, for example, with semicolon, I said that if you have, well, I think I probably removed it. Like if you have a sentence broken into, right here actually, wait a second. Coming back here, when we were talking about this sentence, I said instead of semicolon, you can put a full stop. All right, that's going to be a smaller sentence. But you put a semicolon, now it's one long sentence, and now it's more complex, okay? It's more long. Every long sentence will give you more marks. Think like that. Remember that. That is a key trick in SELPIP. It's annoying, it takes time, and this is what examiners want, all right? So that is the trick, guys, which encompasses all these things. And you also need the 200 words of vocab list, 200 words of phrasal verbs list, And if you want that access to the PDF, it's another $39 for that. You want all these things combined, and then you will never fail on the vocab mark in CELPIP, where most people do. Okay, you don't want to be that person. So apply these things. If you have any questions, you know where to email us, and there's more to come. So follow the next lesson for more details.